everybody. Welcome to the Write or Die Show. I'm your host, Randi-lee. On the show, we interview other writers and we talk about mental health from their personal journeys. If you have not already, hit that like and subscribe button. Go ahead, do that now so that you never miss an episode. Hey, so today with us, we have a returning guest, AG Flitcher. Hello.
Hello.
How are you today?
I am good. I'm excited for my new book.
Yes, and we're definitely going to get to that. But first, tell everybody a little bit, remind them if they haven't seen your other episode, who you are.
All right. My name is Andre, but you can call me AG for my author name. I'm in Canada, BC, in a little town called Aldergrove, which is changing rapidly. There's so many developing apartment complexes now, filling up all of the old structures that don't exist anymore. I still remember there was this old strip mall that my sister and I used to go to all the time. It was always so creepy because all the dark tiles and walls, and there was always like this weird like arcade in the tiny corner that no one can see. So when you're in there, you're just like, is it safe?
Write a story about that.
Yeah, like when my sister was doing figure skating at that time, there was a little place called Fabricland in that strip mall where our mom would buy that fabric and make her like her shows dresses. So
cool.
That was always like the go-to spot for whenever she had to get her dresses made for figure skating. And now it's gone, and now it's gonna be a high-rise place, and then where she used to do figure skating is basically going to be like, I think, an assisted living place for older people. And then that place, that the ice rink got moved to a rec center that was built where my kindergarten used to be. So basically all of the old stuff is gone and being restructured to be more modern.
Wow. Yeah, that's happening a lot here too. Although we still do have Fabricland.
Oh, okay. But for catching up on writing of what I've done, I wrote the series Boone and Jacques, and right now the book that I just released last Friday, Black Rose Cocoon, is available.
Sorry, I'm gonna sneeze. Okay, it's gone. I still might sneeze, guys. I still might sneeze. So we're gonna get into that in a little bit. But first, let's just talk about mental health stuff, And I know we talked obviously last time about it, and but there's always something new. So my question this time, since we've kind of already done the past stuff, is as you're writing, and I mean, which number of book are you at for this series?
I mean, like, of books that I've written or the series? Because I'm done with Boone and Jacques.
Yeah. Wait. Okay. So of books you've written then?
I've written, actually in total I've written 8 books.
Okay.
I did a duology called Unforgiven, and then the series Boone and Jacques, and now Black Rose Cocoon.
Okay. So from book 1 that you wrote to now, how has your, trying to figure out how I want to word this, how has your concept of yourself and publishing another book kind of changed? Because I know, the first one is always, oh my goodness, is anybody going to like it? But now 8 books in, I mean, you obviously have kind of a little fan base going on. You've done a bunch of shows. So how has that kind of changed mentally for you?
I think what's really changed is I went from being, I'd say, self-centered in terms of utilizing my creative outlet to exercise my own personal pain so that I can basically externalize whatever stored energy I don't want in me anymore. Because that's how it started. Is my mom passed away, like, I think a year before I started writing. And I was like, you know what? I don't have a family at this time that knows how to be compassionate and understanding and even wanted to have discussions about this stuff. I mean, I think 2 years after my mom passed away, my dad showed me this huge stack of my mom's daily journals, and he said if I ever wanted to one day to digitize these, that I could. I'm like, you know what? I'd rather just have them as like something precious that I don't want to lose. So, and one of them, I think it was when I was 7 or 8, um, there was a section where my mom said that she wanted to have family meetings once a week, and in one of the meetings, she said that I was the only one who wanted to have them, talk about my day, good or bad. And my sister and my dad were like, "What's the point?" Because they weren't really the openly emotional type. My sister,
Yeah.
also now that she's been in a relationship almost 3 years now. That's very dedicated and very like it's really changed her approach to not just emotional processing, but also being more not just compassionate understanding, but also active listening to emotion. So um, that's really how things developed for me, is understanding that as you become more practiced, it becomes less about you and more about creating, even though it's fictional, new life forms. You know,
Mhm.
someone who isn't really part of who you are, that has their own characteristics, their own pain, their own happiness, love, and heartache, all this stuff that we all have, but that you try to um, make not just separate from yourself, but also um, as tangible as possible to that character. So
Mhm.
that's what's really changed over time, especially with the latest book, Black Rose Cocoon, where that's what I really tried to um, not just practice, but also really demonstrate that I'm at a point now where, regardless of what happens in my life, I'm not going to write a book when I'm in pain. It's more like I'm going to write a book when I've processed that pain, and to be able to try to relate to someone else's pain that I don't have the same experience to.
That's a really interesting way to put that, actually. So, because I write nonfiction, obviously, I'm more of a write in the pain moment because then I'm getting the emotion across. But I really like how you said, at the beginning, it was that you were processing. And I think, I mean, I've talked to tons of authors on the show.
Mhm.
A lot of people have that same kind of perspective where they put a little bit of themselves into the characters to help kind of work through stuff. But yeah, I find it's true. Even so, again, talking to lots of different authors, you've articulated it so well, saying by now, though, now you're able to form these other, I'm going to call them people. I know they're fictional, but these other people, I guess I could just call them characters, but whatever.
Mhm.
We give them life.
Mhm.
So these other people that you can now give unique experiences to because you've worked through your stuff, which is kind of cool. Same with how you're talking about your sister, how now she's a little bit more open because when you work through your stuff or
Mhm.
you're in a relationship, which forces you to work through things, whether or not you want to, um, you change over time. And that's what I think is really cool about having repeat authors on the show is you can talk about what it was like and what it's like now.
Yeah, I mean, with Black Rose Cocoon, that was a really big challenge for me because I included characters that I don't have in my life that I couldn't relate to.
Yeah.
So I would say the hardest one, even though people say that they like certain characters that I wrote, they thought was unique. I'm like, it's unique, but it's kind of the only reason why I made that character stronger than another one is because it's part of who I am as a person. But the
Mhm.
hardest character to write for me was Scarlet. Scarlet is this Southern mom that is has the typical like Southern strength is what I call it.
Okay.
But as things develop in the story and she loses more, her Southern charm becomes quieter, and then her fear and somewhat like fight or flight response becomes more flight than fight, because she essentially um, loses control of her sanity and capability of protecting herself and her family, and it becomes more about trying to process this new level of danger that she didn't think she'd encounter, and even this brutal alteration of what I deem her life pattern. So
Okay.
that was the hardest thing to write.
Yeah. So a couple of things I'm going to break down in what you said here.
Mm,
First, you're talking about how the people have told you, "Oh, I like this character; they're unique," but you're like, "Oh, but it's kind of like me." It just goes to show you how different everyone's experiences are in life,
yeah.
right? Like to you, you're like, "That's not a unique character. That's just my qualities. I put them into that character." But if somebody
Mm,
else has never experienced it, it is
yeah.
a unique character. So it's really cool that we as the author go, it's not unique, but our readers look at it and go, wow, that's so cool. That's so unique. How'd you come up with it? So sometimes it's pretty nice to be able to pull from our past and be able to put that in because other people don't see it as a normal thing, whereas we're like, it's just normal. Um, and, and then being able to put your mind into a character that is totally different, like you're talking about Scarlet, right? That was the name.
Mm, yeah.
I never trust my memory, even though I really should. But so putting yourself into Scarlet, and I really liked how you're saying, with the character having lost stuff, and so she's losing some of her Southern charm and the fight or flight, and that is so much reality. I mean, obviously, it's a fictional story you made it up, but that's so much reality when people are put through whatever circumstances, losing loved ones, family, your house burning down, whatever it is, you're put through all of these different trials and traumas,
Mm,
and it just kind of eats away at your soul. So I like how you say she's kind of losing her southern charm a little bit because that's such a visual for me. Like I'm visualizing, it's probably
yeah.
not how it happened, but I'm visualizing like little crystals leaving her, which is just how my brain sees it. But like it's so true that we lose a little bit of ourselves as trauma happens and we go into fight or flight and then we have to learn to cope and deal.
Yeah, so what I did for her is when it all starts, when she starts her journey of losing people, um she reverts to one I guess relatable vice, which is drinking. Um but when the comfort of her home changes and the comfort of having access to alcohol becomes null and void, that's where her true fear starts to really come to the surface, and how she reacts to um, basically being without convenience for resource. That's where we get to see what is she capable of and what is she willing to do to rectify the situation that she's in, and how strong is she to learn how to walk without a crutch and protect whatever is left of her family. And does she want to forget her insecurities and fears, and put someone ahead of her and their fears?
Ooh,
So
does she want to? Hold on, we gotta talk
yeah,
about that
yeah, mhm,
statement right there. Does she want to? Because I think that is, again, so true in life. Do we want to take that step
mhm,
to look at our situations? I remember, and this is going to lots of people I've talked to. I didn't want to go to therapy. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go on medication, right? All of these little things that you don't want to do, but deciding, making that choice to then go and do it can
mhm.
be so liberating and so free that you finally can deal with a lot of stuff. So, where did you get the idea um for that needing to decide part? Like how did that concept come, or just how, not even necessarily in the book, but just talking to me right now, why choose those words specifically?
Um, I think because of the environment that I decided to put the characters in, which is Halberton City, or which I did a mishmash of like New York, England, and even a little bit of Cairo, Egypt. Um, I call it the hustle and bustle where you feel like an ant, and the characters take comfort in that because it means that the noise provides this sort of like distraction from themselves, and therefore creating an opportunity to not have to really think about not just who they are, but the I guess the comfort in knowing they don't have to change is what they rely on because there's too much hustle and bustle for them to even have that like quiet space to think and act. So I was like,
Another
you know what?
big
I'm gonna take that
concept.
away from you. I'm gonna take that away from you. I'm gonna put you in a serene environment that has no artificial um land base for you to lean on literally and literally put you on a cliff and see what happens. So by doing that, um, that's how that question comes into play: is do these characters want to change? Do these characters want to save themselves and then put others ahead of them? So, for example, Rosaria, who is the main character, she doesn't change much throughout the series. Like some uh professional reviewers and even authors will be like, "You didn't do much character arc with this person." I'm like, "Because I don't want to, because there's no point in having some like drastic change for everybody. That's crazy. That's not realistic."
Okay, so I'm gonna interject.
Mhm,
That's realistic, right?
mhm,
Like, not everybody changes. So, um, we should all know, everybody who has been
mhm,
hanging out here on the Ride or Die show for a long time, we should all know, that my brother died a couple of years ago from a drug overdose.
mhm,
And his character arc, I mean, he's a real person, but his character arc, it never changed. He was stuck in his trauma, in his addiction, and didn't make that decision to go and get help,
yeah,
to make a change. So that's so realistic. Whereas, and we grew up in the same house, right? So I'm right there beside him for a long time. I mean, not that I was in an addiction, but right there beside him with the whole trauma and having issues to
mm,
deal with.
yeah,
But I made the decision to go and change and get therapy and help. So I think, and I haven't read the book yet. I do have a copy, guys, but I haven't read it yet. But I do think that keeping true to sort of reality, as much as this is fiction, keeping true to reality is so important as well, because as a reader, you can get immersed much
yeah,
easier in a book if it does stick a little bit to reality, something that you can have a
mhm,
concept of. And having one person not be able to overcome or choose to change because they're just not at that
yeah,
point in their life is realistic. And some characters do get that big change, which is so realistic as well. And having two characters doing that is just, to me, I just, like I said, it makes me think my brother and me, and it happens with a lot of siblings where, you grew up in the same area, the same house, same parents, but you're so different. Not, I don't even know if these characters
yeah,
are siblings, but that's what it makes me think of, as how we can be so different but come
mhm.
from the same kind of circumstance.
Yeah. Like what I was how can I put it? When I was writing the first draft, I was like, I didn't really do much of like a background on Rosaria. I didn't really like touch on her family. I did a little bit, um, but I was like, you know what? Maybe that's needed, where you don't need to know every single detail about someone's life and who they came to be and who they are now. That's just like this is not a soap opera. You killed my brother. I don't give a shit.
How are you back
um,
from the dead? Yes.
so basically, the only thing that changes for Rosaria by the end of it is that she doesn't see everything as black and white anymore, but she's still not like she's still being hyperly logical or highly logical. But it doesn't mean that how she approaches people has changed. It's more like she she'll believe things more of when she's like doing a case or whatever as a detective, but that her life isn't just work anymore. That she's
Mhm.
more open to some things, but she won't like how can I put it? Okay, there's interactions she has with the people where they try to kind of poke and prod her for not enough necessarily for investigating her, but just trying to like befriend her and become closer. And she's like, I don't want to tell you anything.
Sorry, I'm trying to yell at my cat.
Okay.
She's not being a good listener. Now she's staring at me like, what? I wasn't doing nothing. I wasn't tearing apart the walls. What? I'm so cute. Oh, she's so silly. So going along with this theme that we've kind of been talking about, what would you tell to somebody right now who's maybe at a crossroads and going, huh, do I make this decision to change, or maybe who I am is okay, maybe I want to stay the same, and they're just having this anxiety of I don't know what to do. What might you tell them?
Well, I mean, I would tell them it doesn't matter what you're going through. It's a matter of you asking yourself, who am I? And what do I need an answer for that? Or can I just be accepting of who I am and love myself? Like lately with my new job, in which I work at a hotel now, um, I was like, you know what? I don't really see myself being here that long. I only took this job so that I could get out of a place where I felt like I was accepting misery because of how the job was going, and therefore didn't have motivation to do anything. So really, I was like, I just want to be in a place where I can ask myself, where am I going and where do I want to go, and do I have a clear idea of what I stand for and what is my purpose in life? And not a lot of people think about that. So if I was telling someone how to be themselves or change, it's more like ask yourself, what is it about yourself and where you are in life that you don't like, or that isn't benefiting you in the way you hoped it would, and understand that whatever path you take to get to a place where you feel comfortable in your own skin and your professional life and personal life, what does that mean to you? Not uh, self-acceptance or self-distance, but just being in a place where you can accept whatever comes your way, that regardless of how much you lose or how much you gain, you as a person can deal with it and be accepting of the changes in life.
I like that. So we have already talked quite a bit about the book, referencing the characters in our conversation. Sounds like the book actually has a lot of unintentional mental health qualities to it that we can pull if we really wanted to. Um, so is there anything else that we need to know about this book?
Um, I think what people need to know is the story structure, because it'll be kind of confusing for some people if they've never read a book like this. So for the video's sake, so that's the cover.
Okay, very
Okay,
nice.
on there.
Yeah.
So actually, I'll do this because I know there's both audio and video for this episode here. So for
Yes.
video, as you can see, this the rotation
Oh.
of the characters. So 4 character rotation. Okay. And then there's a prologue at the beginning. And the reason why I did that is because originally I wanted to do a serial killer origin story. And I
Hmm.
kind of barfed at that idea because I was just like, oh, I don't like that. Because it humanizes the character, and I don't want to do that, and I don't want to make it about them.
That's
Um,
true.
so I wanted to reverse it and make it about the people. So the
Mhm.
4 character rotation isn't just to be interesting and unique for story structure, it's to touch on 4 different perspectives that murder affects people in society and families. So there is Rosario, the detective, and then there's a radio host and a doorman, Paolo. Radio host is called Kelly, and then the 4th character is Scarlet. Scarlet, like we talked about.
Mhm.
Um, for that one, the only kind of spoiler I'll give you is the way she's introduced is a different killer killed her only son, and then she becomes involved when other members um, start to basically become the body count. Now, what I want the listeners to understand is that this is less about the thrill of the hunt and more about the psychological effect that society and victim family members have. Because that to me is more interesting than seeing some slasher movie kind of book. Because that's a lot of crime books are like that, where they're like, oh, women love this. They love thrill of the hunt. They love seeing how they can protect themselves. It's like, so that's been there, done that.
It's true,
So
yeah.
so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna see if I can subvert expectation, not on purpose, just to see if people are interested in the other side of things. Because in a crime book, it's less about the personal journey that people go through, and more about the excitement of putting a bad person behind bars, kind of
Yeah.
thing. So
Okay, very cool. And where do people pick up their copy?
they can pick it up on Amazon for Kindle and paperback.
Excellent. And where do we follow you?
So the list of places grew a little bit actually. So for
Oh,
social media, my handle AG Flitcher. So you can do that for Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And now I started my own podcast called Life as Stories with AG Flitcher.
very cool. What's the podcast about?
Right now, I'm just talking, getting used to, you know, speaking clearly, and also practicing themes. I've released 8 episodes so far,
Nice.
so once a week. The latest one I talked about was confidence. So there's a theme every week.
Yeah.
But I think my favorite episode that I've done so far, uh, which relates actually to the book Black Rose Cocoon, is "Death is Beautiful," because this book started with me watching an interview with Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, okay.
I think I've talked about that with you before,
I
but
think
he said
so.
this. He said, "If life has to begin, then it has to end." So, and yeah, that's obvious, but the way he phrased it was as if he's trying to say, be accepting of the fact that we all have an expiration, and that expiration should be encouraging us to maximize the value of ourselves in our life and what
Mm.
we can do in that time. And that by not necessarily normalizing the fear of death, but normalizing the idea of my battery doesn't want to live. Okay, hold on. Okay. um, but normalizing the idea of not wasting time. Now, that may seem harsh to some people where they say, I'm not wasting time, I'm happy. It's like, okay, but what exactly are you doing in your life that is true to that statement?
Hmm.
So that's why with writing, I'm always so active about it. But at the same time, I know that um, there is it's okay to press pause sometimes. So
Yeah.
now that Black Rose Cocoon is out, I don't want to do any writing for a bit of time because um, I'm trying to break the life pattern between when I do write and when I don't write. So if that
Oh.
means changing my job or going back to school or something,
Hmm.
I'll do that because whenever I do write, or when I wrote Boney Jack, it was more about working through my anxiety and whatever depression I have some days, so that I feel like I have some control and some stability in who I am as a person. Because I always leaned on my creativity to feel like I'm um, externalizing what I really want to say and what I deem to be my purpose in life. And
Okay.
I can't just say writing is my passion. I'm going to put all my energy into that. It's like, yeah, but what's outside of that?
Yeah.
So, um, so yeah, that pretty much covers it.
I like that. And yeah, I do. I kind of took a little, I wouldn't say conscious break, but yeah, after I released Goodbye Too Soon, yeah, I kind of took a little bit of break. I did do a kids book just because those when I do my kids books, they're for me. I release them, people enjoy them, but they're for me to kind of get over the hard part, the nonfiction hard part, right? But really, I took kind of a little, probably about, I would say, the good last 7, 8 months. I haven't really thought about the next book, although I have decided now because it just sort of came to me the other day. But I wasn't like, hey, what's my next one? What's it going to be? I'm just like, I'm okay. I'm going to focus on my podcast. I'm just going to take a breath here. Just, whew. And sometimes that's needed.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, what was it? People would always ask me, "Well, what's next? What's next?" I'm like, I know what's next, but I just don't want to do it right now.
Right?
Uh,
You don't have to there's
like,
no rush.
yeah, because like I spent a year and a half working on this book, and that was while working full time and writing Boone Jack back final book. And I was like, this took a lot of time and a lot of research and processing and trying to really, make this come to life and
Mhm.
have it stand out and everything. But now it's like, if the next project that I want to do, that's going to take even more out of me to do. And I know that my way of like my writing process is I basically put myself in this little bubble and
Mhm.
kind of distance myself from what's going on in life so that I don't have to fully deal with it, because I always put so much energy into whatever decision I make. And
Yeah.
now that I'm growing up and I'm not in a place where I'm um, being so obedient to certain people. Like I remember I went on a date a few months ago, and this woman was really blunt with me. She said, it sounds like you base all of your decisions around your dad." And I'm like,
Mm.
I don't see how you can make that assumption, but okay. But she was kind of right, where because I've always lived with him, I've always kind of leaned on his advice and things. But
Yeah.
but then I was like, you know what? I'm getting to a point where in maturity, where I'm not just thinking for myself, but I'm also altering my life pattern to a place where I feel comfortable and it feels right to me. So if that means leaving where I am to go live somewhere else in order to live a better life, I will.
Yeah. Very cool. So thank you again for coming back on the show. And sharing again, something a little bit different. That's what I like. That's why I never have set questions. We'll have conversations. It's awesome. It's so much fun. Everybody go make sure that you check out all of AG Flitcher's books. Remember, there's 8 of them. And be sure to check out this podcast that he has now started and give him some love, because when you first start a podcast, you got to build it up, and the more you do it, the better you get at it, just like anything else in life. So go on over there, give him some love on the podcast side of things as well. What's the name of it one more time?
Life as Stories with AG Flitcher.
Excellent. And of course, we're going to throw all the links in the description down below, so make it easy for you.
All right.
um As always, thank you so much for the amazing guests that we have on the show. Be sure to check out their links down in the description below. If you want to support the channel, go ahead and check out our merch store. We've got some very cool things on there. That's my favorite. Sorry, I'm busy ending the stigma. But there's some other very cool designs. 10% of the proceeds always goes back to the Canadian Mental Health Association. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at RB Media, because we have some great new shows coming up, and you never want to miss any of those episodes. And remember, the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly. Bye.